Have you ever had this strange experience? You sit down to study English. You understand the grammar, you know the vocabulary, you feel confident, and then suddenly a native speaker starts talking and it feels like your brain completely stops working.
Yes, it is like your brain says, "Sorry, we are closed today."
Exactly. And then you start asking yourself, wait, why is this so difficult? I know these words, I studied this before.
That is honestly one of the most frustrating feelings in the world.
It really is. Because on paper, your English looks good, but in real life, real English feels completely different.
Native speakers talk too fast.
They connect words together.
They use slang.
They change topics suddenly.
They mumble.
Constantly.
And somehow they use easy words in a way that still sounds confusing.
Exactly. So today, we are going to talk about the battle between your brain and real English.
Because sometimes it feels like they are enemies.
It really does. Your brain wants slow, clean, perfect English.
But real English is messy.
Real English is full of interruptions, jokes, shortcuts, emotions, and expressions that make absolutely no sense when you translate them word by word.
Like when someone says, "I'm totally wiped out."
Which means I'm very tired.
Or when someone says, "Hang in there."
Which means stay strong or do not give up.
English is full of these strange little phrases.
And if you try to understand them one word at a time, your brain gets exhausted.
That is probably why so many learners understand English in class but struggle in real conversations.
Exactly. Because classroom English and real English are often very different worlds.
So in today's episode, we are going to explore why real English feels so difficult, what is happening inside your brain, and most importantly, how you can train yourself to understand English more naturally.
And here's the challenge. If you can understand this episode comfortably, your English is probably much better than you think.
So stay with us, because the next part is where things get really interesting.
We are going to talk about the biggest reason your brain freezes when you hear real English. The biggest reason your brain freezes when you hear real English is simple.
Your brain is trying to understand every single word.
Exactly. And that sounds smart at first.
Because you think, if I understand every word, I will understand the sentence.
But real conversations do not work like that. Native speakers move too fast.
Much too fast.
They do not pause after every word. They connect sounds together. They skip sounds. Sometimes they even change words completely.
Like going to becoming gonna.
Exactly. Or want to becoming wanna.
Or did you becoming didya.
Right. So if your brain is waiting to hear every word clearly and perfectly, you are already too late.
That is such a frustrating truth.
It is. Imagine someone says, "What are you going to do this weekend?"
That sounds simple.
But in real life, it might sound more like, "What you going to do this weekend?"
Which sounds like a completely different sentence.
Exactly. And your brain suddenly starts panicking because you think, wait, I know all these words, but why do they sound so different?
That happens to me all the time with fast English.
It happens to everyone because your brain wants clear pronunciation, but real English is often compressed.
Compressed is such a good word for it.
It really is. Native speakers compress English because they want to speak quickly and naturally.
They are not trying to make life difficult for learners.
No, but sometimes it feels like they are.
Definitely.
Here's another example. Imagine someone says, "I do not know."
That sounds easy.
But in real life, it often sounds like, "I don't know."
Which is much harder to recognize.
Exactly. Or "let me know" becomes "let me know."
Or "give me a second" becomes "give me a second."
Right. These small changes happen constantly in spoken English.
Which means your brain needs to learn the sound of real English, not just textbook English.
Exactly. And that's why listening practice is so important.
Because reading English and hearing English are completely different skills.
Absolutely. Many learners are excellent readers.
But then they hear the same sentence spoken out loud and suddenly they don't understand it.
Right. Because on paper, the words are separated and clear.
But in conversation, everything mixes together.
Exactly. Think about the sentence, "I should have told you."
That sounds pretty normal.
But a native speaker might say, "I should have told you."
Which honestly sounds like a different language.
It really does. And if you're not used to those sounds, your brain cannot connect what you hear with the words you already know.
So the problem is not always vocabulary.
Exactly. Sometimes you know the words perfectly. You just don't recognize them in fast speech.
That is such an important thing for learners to understand.
It really is. Because many people think, "I need to learn more words."
But sometimes they don't need more words.
Sometimes they just need more listening experience.
Because the words they already know are hiding inside fast speech.
Exactly. And the more you listen, the more your brain starts recognizing these patterns automatically.
Like gonna, wanna, gotta, lemme, and kinda.
Right. At first, they sound confusing.
But after hearing them many times, they start feeling normal.
Exactly. And that's when listening becomes easier.
I think there is another problem too.
What's that?
Many learners panic when they miss one word.
That is a huge problem.
Because they think, oh no, I missed one word. Now I can't understand anything.
Exactly. And while they are still thinking about that one missing word, the conversation continues.
So they miss the next sentence too.
And then the next one.
And suddenly they feel completely lost.
Exactly. But advanced learners do something different.
They keep going.
Right. They do not stop the entire conversation in their mind just because they missed one word.
They focus on the main idea.
Exactly. Because understanding English is not about catching every single word perfectly.
It is about understanding the message.
That's the key. Imagine someone says, I was running late because my car broke down.
Maybe you don't know the phrase broke down.
But you know running late and car.
So you can probably guess that something bad happened with the car.
Exactly. And that's enough to understand the main idea.
I think many learners need to hear this because they expect too much from themselves.
Definitely. They expect 100% understanding all the time.
Which is impossible.
Even native speakers don't understand every single word in every conversation.
Especially if someone has a strong accent or speaks very quickly.
Exactly. So if you understand 70 or 80%, that is already very good.
And honestly, that should make a lot of viewers feel less stressed.
I hope so, because listening becomes much easier when you stop trying to be perfect.
That is such a powerful idea.
It really is. And here's a question for everyone watching. What is the hardest thing for you when listening to real English?
Fast speech?
Slang?
Different accents?
Connected words?
Accented words?
Write your answer in the comments because we would love to know. And if you're enjoying this episode so far, do not forget to like the video and subscribe to Talk Easy Daily.
Because in the next part, we are going to talk about something even more frustrating.
Why your brain can understand English perfectly one day and then completely fail the next day. One of the strangest things about learning English is that some days you feel amazing.
You understand podcasts.
You understand movies.
You have conversations.
You remember vocabulary easily.
And you start thinking, wow, maybe my English is finally getting really good.
And then the next day happens.
Suddenly, everything feels impossible again.
Exactly. You listen to a video and understand nothing.
You forget simple words.
You make grammar mistakes you thought you already fixed.
And then you start thinking, wait, am I getting worse?
That feeling is very common.
Really common.
But here's the good news. It doesn't mean your English is getting worse.
Then why does it happen?
Because your brain is not a machine.
That is true.
Your brain is affected by energy, stress, sleep, mood, confidence, and attention.
So if you are tired, your English feels harder?
Exactly. If you are stressed, your brain has less energy for listening and speaking.
If you are nervous, you forget words.
Right. And if you are distracted, even simple English can suddenly feel difficult.
That makes so much sense.
Think about your own language for a moment.
Okay.
Have you ever been tired, stressed, or distracted and suddenly forgotten a simple word in your own language?
All the time.
Exactly. So if that can happen in your native language, of course it can happen in English too.
That is actually comforting.
It is, because many learners think every difficult day is proof that they're failing.
But it's not.
Not at all. One bad day doesn't erase months or years of progress.
That is such an important thing to remember.
It really is. Imagine someone goes to the gym for 6 months.
Okay.
Some days they feel strong.
And some days they feel weak.
Exactly. But one weak day doesn't mean they lost all their muscles overnight.
That would be terrible.
It would. And English works the same way.
So if you have a bad English day, do not panic.
Exactly. Do not immediately tell yourself, my English is terrible.
Because that negative thinking makes everything worse.
Definitely. Once you start panicking, your brain becomes even less efficient.
And then you make even more mistakes.
Exactly. It becomes a cycle.
So what should people do instead?
First, relax. Remind yourself that bad days are normal.
That already helps.
Second, do something simple in English instead of forcing yourself to do something very difficult.
Like listening to an easy podcast.
Exactly. Or watching a short video, or reading something simple, or reviewing words you already know.
So instead of fighting with your brain, you work with it.
That's exactly the idea.
I think people often make the mistake of trying too hard.
Definitely. They think, I had a bad day, so now I need to study for 5 hours.
Which usually makes them even more tired.
Exactly. Sometimes the best thing you can do is rest and come back tomorrow.
Because tomorrow, your brain might feel completely different.
Right. And sometimes your English feels stronger simply because you're in a good mood.
That is so true.
Have you ever noticed that when you're relaxed and happy, you understand more?
Yes, and when I'm nervous, I suddenly forget everything.
Exactly. That's why confidence matters so much in language learning.
Because confidence changes the way your brain works.
Absolutely. When you feel confident, you take risks. You keep listening, even if you miss a word. You keep speaking, even if you make a mistake.
But when you feel nervous, every mistake feels huge.
Exactly. Suddenly, one forgotten word feels like a disaster.
And then you lose focus.
Right. So one of the best ways to improve your English is not just studying harder.
It's becoming calmer.
Exactly. The calmer you are, the better your brain works.
That is such a powerful idea.
It really is. And here's something else that many people don't realize. Your English can feel different depending on the topic.
That's true.
Maybe you can talk easily about movies, food, travel, and music.
But if someone suddenly starts talking about politics, business, or science, you feel lost.
Exactly. That doesn't mean your English is bad.
It just means you don't know that topic very well.
Right. Even native speakers sometimes feel confused if a conversation becomes very technical.
That's such a good point.
So if you struggle with a certain topic, don't assume your whole English level is bad.
Maybe you just need more vocabulary in that area.
Exactly. And that's much easier to fix.
Here's a question for everyone watching. Do you notice that your English feels stronger on some days and weaker on other days?
And what do you think causes that?
Stress?
Sleep?
Confidence?
Topic?
Write your answer in the comments because you might realize that many other people feel exactly the same way.
And if you're enjoying this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to Talk Easy Daily.
Because in the next part, we're going to talk about one of the biggest hidden reasons real English feels impossible. Your brain is translating too much.
One of the biggest reasons real English feels impossible is because your brain is still translating everything into your native language.
And that takes a lot of time.
Too much time. Imagine someone asks you a simple question like, "What did you do this weekend?"
Your brain hears the sentence in English,
Then translates it into your language,
then creates an answer in your language,
then translates that answer back into English.
which is exhausting.
Exactly. And while your brain is doing all that work, the conversation keeps moving.
That's why sometimes people ask you something simple, but it still takes forever to answer.
Right. Not because you don't know English.
But because your brain is taking the long route.
Exactly. Translation is like taking 10 small roads instead of one direct highway.
I love that example.
And at the beginning, translation is normal.
Very normal.
Every learner translates it first. That's part of the process.
So if you still translate sometimes, that doesn't mean your English is bad.
Not at all. The problem is when you depend on translation for everything.
Because then English never feels natural.
Exactly. It always feels like a puzzle you have to solve instead of a language you can use.
So how do people stop translating so much?
One of the best ways is to start connecting English directly to images, feelings, and situations instead of words in your own language.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about the word apple.
Okay.
If you hear the word apple, what should happen in your mind?
I should picture an apple.
Exactly. Not the word in your language.
That makes sense.
The more you can connect English directly to real things, the faster your brain becomes.
So instead of hearing dog and translating it, I should just picture a dog.
Exactly. And this becomes even more important with emotions and common phrases.
Like what?
Imagine someone says, "I'm exhausted."
Instead of translating it word for word, I should immediately connect it with the feeling of being very tired.
Exactly. Or if someone says, "I'm starving," you should immediately connect it to the feeling of being very hungry.
That's so interesting because it changes the way you think about vocabulary.
It does, because real fluency isn't about translation, it's about direct connection.
I think that's why children learn languages differently.
Exactly. Children don't translate, they connect words directly to the world around them.
They hear milk and see milk.
Right. They hear sleep and connect it with bedtime.
So adults can learn the same way too.
Absolutely. It just takes practice.
What kind of practice helps with that?
One simple thing is using English explanations instead of translations.
That sounds difficult.
At first, yes, but it becomes easier. For example, if you don't know the word borrow, instead of looking at the translation, you could think borrow means taking something from someone and giving it back later.
So you stay inside English.
Exactly, and that's very powerful because it trains your brain to think in English instead of constantly leaving English.
I love that idea.
Another helpful trick is talking to yourself in English.
That feels strange at first,
Very strange.
but it actually works.
It works really well. You can describe what you're doing during the day.
Like, I'm making coffee.
I'm needing to answer this email.
I'm tired today.
Exactly. Those small sentences train your brain to think directly in English.
And over time, you stop translating as much.
Right. Another good habit is reading simple things in English without stopping to translate every unknown word.
That's hard for a lot of people.
It is, but if you stop every 5 seconds, your brain never learns how to follow the bigger meaning.
So sometimes it's better to keep reading and guess.
Exactly, because guessing is an important skill.
Advanced learners are good at guessing.
Very good. They don't panic when they see one word they don't know.
They use the other words around it.
Exactly. Imagine you read the sentence, "After running for an hour, he was drenched in sweat."
Maybe you do not know the word drenched,
But you know running, hour, and sweat.
so you can probably guess that drenched means very wet.
Exactly. And that's enough to understand the sentence.
I think many learners underestimate how important guessing is.
Definitely. Because in real conversations, you don't always have time to stop and search for every word.
You need to keep moving,
Exactly. And the more you do that, the less your brain depends on translation.
which means English starts feeling faster and more natural.
Right. And one day, something really exciting happens.
What's that?
You start thinking in English without trying.
That is one of the best feelings ever.
It really is. Maybe you're walking outside and suddenly you think, it looks like it's going to rain.
Or you look at your phone and think, I should reply to that message.
Exactly. Those little moments are proof that English is becoming automatic.
And that's a huge milestone.
Definitely. Because once English becomes automatic, real conversations become much easier.
And your brain stops fighting the language all the time.
Exactly. Instead of saying, this is difficult, your brain starts saying, I know this.
And that confidence changes everything.
It really does. Because in the next part, we're going to talk about something that makes real English even harder.
Different accents.
Because sometimes it feels like one English speaker is understandable and another sounds like they're speaking a completely different language. Different accents can make English feel much more difficult than it really is.
Definitely. Sometimes you understand one person perfectly, and then another person starts talking, and suddenly your brain gives up.
Exactly. You think, wait, are they even speaking English?
That's especially true with very strong accents.
Right. Maybe you're comfortable with American English because that's what you usually hear in movies and YouTube videos.
But then you hear someone from Scotland,
Or Australia.
or Ireland,
Or Ireland.
or India.
And suddenly, everything sounds completely different. Exactly. The words are the same, but the pronunciation, rhythm, and melody of the language change.
Melody is such a good word for it.
It really is. Every accent has its own rhythm and musical style.
Some accents sound very smooth.
Some sound very sharp,
Some speakers talk very quickly.
and some speakers stretch out certain sounds.
That's why accents can feel so difficult at first.
Exactly, because your brain becomes comfortable with one sound pattern.
And then suddenly someone speaks with a different sound pattern.
Right. Imagine you always hear the word water pronounced in an American accent.
Like water.
Exactly. Then suddenly you hear a British speaker say water.
And your brain needs a second to realize it's the same word.
Exactly. Or think about the word can't.
Americans and British people pronounce that very differently.
They do. And if you're not used to hearing different versions of the same word, your brain can get confused.
I think a lot of learners blame themselves too quickly.
Definitely. They think, I couldn't understand that accent, so my English must be terrible.
But that's not true.
Not at all. Even native speakers sometimes struggle with unfamiliar accents.
That makes me feel better already.
It should, because accents are difficult for everyone.
So what can people do to get better at understanding different accents?
The most important thing is exposure.
Exposure again.
Exactly. The more different voices you hear, the more flexible your brain becomes.
So instead of only listening to one type of English, it's better to listen to many different speakers.
Right. Listen to podcasts from different countries, watch interviews, watch movies and TV shows with different accents.
Because your brain learns patterns through repetition.
Exactly. At first, a strong accent might sound impossible.
But after listening for 10 or 15 minutes, it often becomes easier.
Right. Your brain starts adjusting.
I've noticed that. Sometimes at the beginning of a movie, I understand almost nothing.
And then, after a while, it becomes much easier.
Exactly.
That's because your brain is learning the accent in real time.
That's actually kind of amazing.
It really is. Your brain is constantly adapting.
I think another difficult thing is when people use local slang or regional expressions.
That makes accents even harder.
Because now you're dealing with different pronunciation and different vocabulary at the same time.
Exactly. Imagine someone says, I'm knackered.
Some viewers might not know that expression.
Right. Knackered is a British expression that means very tired.
Or someone says, I'm keen.
In some countries, that means I'm interested or I'm excited.
So even simple words can have different meanings depending on where someone is from.
Exactly. That's why understanding real English isn't only about vocabulary.
It's also about culture.
Right. Different countries use different expressions, different humor, and different ways of speaking.
Which can feel overwhelming sometimes.
Definitely. But remember, you don't need to understand every accent perfectly.
That's important.
You just need enough exposure so that different accents stop feeling scary.
I love that idea.
Because once you stop being afraid of different accents, your confidence grows.
And confidence makes listening easier.
Exactly. When you panic, your brain freezes.
But when you stay relaxed, your brain stays open.
Right. Here's a simple example. Imagine someone says something and you only understand half of it.
That happens a lot.
Instead of panicking, focus on the words you did understand.
Because those words can help you guess the rest.
Exactly. Maybe you hear restaurant, Friday, and friends.
Then you can probably guess they're talking about going out to eat with friends on Friday.
Exactly. You don't need to catch every single word.
You just need the main idea.
That's the secret to understanding real English.
Not perfection.
Exactly. Flexibility.
That's such a good word.
It really is. Real English is messy, fast, emotional, and full of surprises.
Which means your brain needs to become flexible enough to handle it.
Right. And the more you practice, the more flexible your brain becomes.
So if you struggle with accents right now, don't worry.
It doesn't mean your English is bad.
It just means your ears need more practice.
Exactly. And that practice works faster than most people think.
Here's a question for everyone watching. Which English accent is the hardest for you to understand?
American?
British?
Australian?
Scottish?
Irish?
Write your answer in the comments because it's always interesting to see which accents people find most difficult.
And if you're enjoying this episode, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Talk Easy Daily.
Because in the next part, we're going to talk about one of the most powerful changes that can happen in your English journey.
The moment when real English stops sounding like noise and starts sounding natural. There's a moment in every English learner's journey that feels almost magical.
The moment when English stops sounding like random noise.
Exactly. At first, real English can sound impossible.
Like one long word.
Right. You hear people talking, but everything sounds connected together.
It feels like your brain can't find the spaces between the words.
Exactly. But then one day, something changes.
Suddenly, you start hearing the patterns.
You start recognizing common phrases.
You stop hearing individual words and start hearing ideas.
Exactly. Someone says, "You know what I mean," and your brain understands it instantly.
You don't need to stop and translate every word.
Right. Or someone says, "I'm not really in the mood," and you immediately understand the feeling behind it.
That's such a good feeling.
It really is. Because for the first time, English starts feeling natural instead of exhausting.
I remember the first time that happened to me.
What was it like?
I was watching a movie and suddenly I realized I had understood an entire scene without subtitles.
That's a huge moment.
It was, and the strange thing was that I didn't even notice it immediately.
Exactly. Sometimes progress happens quietly.
You suddenly realize, wait, I understood that.
And those moments are powerful because they prove that your brain is changing.
Your brain is literally becoming better at English.
Exactly. The more you listen, the more your brain creates shortcuts.
What do you mean by shortcuts?
Your brain stops treating every sentence like a completely new puzzle.
Because it has seen similar sentences before.
Exactly. If you hear, "I'm so tired," "I'm so hungry," and "I'm so busy" many times, eventually your brain recognizes the pattern automatically.
So instead of hearing every word separately, you hear the whole sentence as one idea.
Exactly. That is why repetition is so important.
Because every time you hear the same kind of sentence, your brain becomes faster.
Right. And eventually, your brain starts predicting what people are going to say next.
That sounds advanced.
It is, but everyone does it. Even in your own language, your brain is always guessing.
That is true.
Imagine someone says, "I'm going to the supermarket because I need to buy..."
Your brain is already expecting words like food, milk, bread, or vegetables.
Exactly. And English works the same way. The more patterns you know, the easier it becomes to predict what is coming next.
Which makes listening much easier.
Definitely. Because now your brain is not only reacting to English,
It is helping you understand it faster.
exactly. That is why people who listen regularly improve so much faster than people who only study grammar.
Because listening trains your brain to recognize natural patterns.
Right. Grammar tells you how English works.
But listening teaches you how English feels.
That is such a good way to say it.
Because sometimes grammar is correct, but it still does not sound natural.
Exactly. For example, a textbook might teach you to say, "I am very tired."
Which is correct.
But in real life, many people say, "I'm exhausted."
Or I'm so tired.
Right. And the only way to learn those natural patterns is by hearing them again and again.
I think that is why podcasts are so useful.
Definitely. Podcasts are great because they expose you to real conversations.
Real speed, real expressions, real emotions.
Exactly. And the more you hear those things, the less shocking they become.
That is so important because many learners think, I will never understand fast English.
But that is not true.
No, fast English only feels impossible because your brain is not used to it yet.
Exactly. Think about music.
Okay,
Imagine hearing a song in another language for the first time.
it probably sounds very fast and confusing.
Right. But if you listen to it 20 times, suddenly you start recognizing words,
Then phrases.
then whole sentences.
That is exactly how listening works.
It is. Your brain needs repetition. It needs time, and it needs patience.
Patience is difficult though,
Very difficult, because everyone wants fast results.
especially with English.
Exactly. People want to understand everything immediately.
But real improvement is usually slow.
Right. Slow, but powerful.
Because one day you suddenly realize that the thing that used to feel impossible now feels normal.
Exactly. Maybe 6 months ago, English podcasts felt too difficult.
But now you can listen while cooking or walking.
Maybe 6 months ago, movies without subtitles felt impossible.
But now you can understand parts of them.
Maybe 6 months ago, native speakers sounded too fast.
But now you can follow more of the conversation.
Those changes are huge.
They really are.
But many people don't notice them because progress happens little by little.
Which is why it's so important to stop sometimes and look at how far you have come.
Absolutely. Because if you only focus on what you still cannot do, you will always feel frustrated.
But if you focus on what you can do now that you couldn't do before, you start feeling motivated again.
Exactly. And motivation is powerful because it helps you keep going.
Here's a question for everyone watching. What is one English situation that feels easier for you now than it did 6 months ago?
Maybe listening.
Maybe speaking.
Maybe reading.
Maybe understanding movies.
Whatever it is, write it in the comments.
Because sometimes when you see your own progress written down, it becomes much more real.
And in the next part, we are going to bring everything together.
We are going to talk about why your brain is actually much better at English than you think.
And why the biggest thing you need now is not more fear.
It is more trust in yourself.
Your brain is much better at English than you think.
It just doesn't always feel that way.
Exactly. Because when you miss a word, make a mistake, or don't understand something, your brain immediately focuses on the negative part.
It forgets all the things you did understand.
Right. Maybe you understood 80% of a conversation.
But your brain only remembers the 20% you missed.
Exactly. And that creates the feeling that your English is worse than it really is.
That happens to so many people.
Definitely. But imagine this. If you can understand podcasts, videos, movies, conversations, jokes, expressions, and real English situations, then your brain is already doing something amazing.
Even if you don't understand everything perfectly.
Exactly. Because perfect understanding is not the goal.
The goal is communication.
The goal is feeling comfortable enough to keep going, even when things are difficult.
The goal is trusting yourself.
Exactly. Because the truth is, your brain already knows much more English than you realize.
Sometimes you just need to give yourself time.
Time and repetition.
Time and patience.
Time and confidence.
Because English doesn't become natural in one day.
But little by little, your brain starts building connections.
You recognize more words.
You understand more expressions.
You stop translating as much.
You become more comfortable with fast speech.
Different accents feel less scary.
Conversations become easier.
And one day, something incredible happens.
What is that?
English starts feeling normal.
Exactly. Not easy all the time.
But normal.
And that is such a powerful moment, because it means your brain is no longer fighting the language.
It is working with it.
Exactly. So if you ever feel frustrated, remember this.
Struggling does not mean you are failing.
Feeling confused sometimes does not mean your English is bad.
Having difficult days does not erase your progress.
And not understanding every single word does not mean you are not improving.
Because improvement is happening even when you can't see it.
Every podcast you listen to helps.
Every movie scene.
Every conversation.
Every mistake.
Every awkward moment.
Every new word.
Every little bit of practice is making your brain stronger.
So the next time real English feels difficult, don't tell yourself, I can't do this.
Tell yourself, I am learning this.
That small change in mindset can make a huge difference.
Because confidence is one of the most important parts of language learning.
And confidence doesn't come from perfection.
It comes from experience.
It comes from practice.
It comes from surviving difficult conversations and realizing, wait, I actually understood more than I thought.
That is such a great feeling.
It really is. And if you understood this entire episode, then honestly, your English is already very strong.
Much stronger than you think.
So before we finish, we want to ask you one question.
What is the hardest part of real English for you right now?
Fast speech?
Slang?
Different accents?
Thinking in English?
Write your answer in the comments because we would love to hear from you.
And maybe someone else in the comments feels exactly the same way.
If this episode helped you, don't forget to like the video.
Subscribe to Talk Easy Daily.
And share this episode with someone who feels frustrated with their English.
Because sometimes all you need is one reminder.
A reminder that your brain is learning.
A reminder that progress takes time.
And a reminder that you are much closer to fluency than you think.
Keep listening.
Keep practicing.
Keep making mistakes.
Keep trusting yourself.
And most importantly,
keep going.